Hey guys, we have been given this equation and we're being asked to solve for x. Now your first instinct might be to try and factor it and solve from there. That's a great instinct. But if you try to factor this the normal way, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to find nice, clean numbers to factor, okay? So from there, we have two options. We can try to complete the square or use the quadratic formula, okay? For this example, we're going to use the quadratic formula. If you do want to see me do the same problem, completing the square, I'll link a video in the corner. You won't regret it. Okay, maybe you will, but there you go. All right, here is our quadratic formula, okay? Now, you might have heard it sung to Pop Goes the Weasel, all right? X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Guarantee you, when I go watch this, I'm going to cringe at my singing, but that's okay. I did it for you. Okay, so where are these a, b's, and c's coming from? Well, they are coming from here, okay? So the number in front of my x squared, this is when there's no numbers over here, right? We're all on one side. The number in front of my x squared is a, number in front of my x is b, and the number being added or subtracted on the back is c, okay? So it can be nice to just go ahead and list these on the side, okay? So a, you're like, there is no number in front of my x squared, but I'm sure you remember that there's a 1 there, right? We just don't write it. B is negative 10, and c is negative 15, okay? All right, so from there, I'm going to plug these numbers in, okay? So I have x equals negative b. Okay, b is already negative. So if I were to write this in, I would have a negative b, so a negative 10. Okay, now when you subtract a negative, it goes positive, right? If you take away something negative out of your life, that's positive, right? So I am going to write a positive 10, okay? Plus or minus the square root of b squared. Now I want to make sure I write b in parentheses so that that squared goes to the 10 and the negative, okay? B squared minus 4 times a, which is 1. We don't technically have to write it, but we will. Times a times c, which is negative 15. Okay. All over 2 times a, which again, a is just 1. Okay. All right, that's pretty, right? We're going to try and make it look a little bit better than that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start simplifying. I'm going to focus on what's under my square root right now, okay? So I've got x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of negative 10 times negative 10 gives me a positive 100, okay? So I'm going to have 100 minus, we've got 4 times 1, which is just 4, right? And 4 times a negative 15, which is going to give me a negative 60, right? So we're going to have minus a negative 60, okay? All over 2 times 1, which just gives me 2, right? Okay. So as I continue to simplify this lovely thing down, I'm going to get the square root of 100 minus a negative 60. Again, just like over here, when we subtract a negative, it goes positive, okay? So this is really 100 plus 60, which gives me 160, right? And this is still over 2. Whenever I do this, I always do my square root like extra long. Sorry about that. Okay, from here, the square root of 160 is not a pretty number, right? It's going to give you an ugly decimal, but we do want to see if we can simplify it down at all, okay? If you need a reminder on how to simplify square roots, I'll link a video in the corner for you. But what we do is we take 160 and we want to find the prime factorization of 160, okay? So what I do is I'm going to break it down. So I know that 2 times 80 gives me 160, right? And then I go ahead and circle any prime numbers, okay? Then I'm going to break down 80, which could be 2 times 40, okay? If you broke that up into 8 times 10 and keep breaking it down, you'll end up with the same answer as me, okay? Now 40 can be broken into 2 times 20, Oh man, I'm going to run out of space here. 2 times 20 gives me 2 times 10. 2 is prime. 10 is 2 times 5, and both of those are prime, okay? So the prime factorization of 160 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5, okay? So any doubles I see, I can cross out and bring one on the outside, okay? So, for example, 2 times 2 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2, right? So I can cross these guys out, and we're going to bring 1 on the outside, okay? So let me start rewriting this. So I'm going to have 10 plus or minus. We're pulling out a 2 from this square root, okay? So we're going to have a 2 on the outside. I'm not going to write it yet because we're going to have more, okay? And then, again, we have another 2 times 2, which is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So I've got 2 2's on the outside, and 2 times 2 is 4, right? All right, that was a journey. I hope it made sense, okay? All right, so then what is left under my square root is the 2 times 5, which is 10, okay? Again, if you were like, that was witchcraft, what the heck did she just do? Go check out that video I linked earlier, okay? All right, from here, okay, it's a little less scary, right? It's still a little scary, but it's a little better. Okay, from here, we can still simplify it down a little bit, okay? So this 2 is, these numbers are being divided by that 2, right? We can't add and subtract these because of that square root, but what I can do is distribute this 2. A lot of times we do it with multiplication, but you can also do it with division, okay? So what that is going to look like is x equals 10 divided by 2 plus or minus 4 square roots of 10 divided by 2. Okay, we just distributed that 2 so that we can simplify even further. Okay, so then I'm going to have x equals 10 divided by 2 gives me 5, right? Plus or minus the 4 can be divided by the 2. Okay, so 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. And then I still have that square root of 10. Okay, guess what? That is my answer, friends. I know it's not pretty. Okay, so remember we did the quadratic formula because this didn't factor pretty, so we could kind of expect our answer to not be pretty. Okay, now your teacher might want it broken out, just it's kind of a preference thing, because there are 2 answers here really, right? So we've got x equals 5 plus 2 square roots of 10, and x equals 5 minus 2 square roots of 10. Okay, so those are my 2 answers. I know they're not pretty. I'm sorry. All right, but I hope this made sense. If you need some more examples, check out those ones I linked before. But if this helped you, if you could hit the like button, that helps me out a ton. Anyways, but good luck. Bye.